Well, look, we've talked to a politician who disagrees with this, and we've talked to the minister, and none of you agree with this, who has decided to adopt a Labor policy. And I saw some good social media commentary and straightforward commentary on this yesterday from a guy involved in politics and assessing public opinion, and actually one of the first bloggers in New Zealand many years ago, when he set up a site called Kiwiblog, which at the time was groundbreaking. Probably you'd look at it now and say it's not so new, but he's a guy who knows a thing or two about media and public opinion, and I thought what he said yesterday indicated he'd be a good guy to talk to this morning. So David Farrar of Curia Market Research joins us now. David, how are you?
I'm very good, Sean.
All right. Firstly, just give me so we know where you stand, and you'll say it because you're not a politician. What do you think of this bill?
I think it's pretty terrible, Sean. And to be fair, I've always thought that. When it was Willie Jackson's bill, I thought that. And now it's been adopted by the government. I don't think suddenly has become good. It actually, look, as you say, I've been blogging for a long time. I've been involved in internet issues for a long time. One of the concerning things about what this bill is looking to do is it's effectively saying if you link to someone else's content, you're now going to have to pay for that. And you might think, well, I don't mind Google and Meta having to pay, but the principle is actually a really important one, is that you want people to link. That's how you promote things. The internet is based on it being free to link to content. If you don't want people to link to it, you can tell people not to. So
well, you don't really put it on the internet.
Yes. Or you can paywall it, as they do. And it's not very principled what they're doing because, look, media's having tough times. But what they've really said is Facebook and Meta get lots of advertising. Media used to get lots of advertising. That's not very fair, so they have to pay some money to the media. And that's just like telling Ford that you have to pay money to Tesla.
Here are some great examples I've got, and feel free to use them. David, who I was just talking to, wrote in and said, can I get the government to intervene on my behalf with Firestone and Dunlop to save my horseshoe business?
Yes.
You know, that was brilliant. I mentioned the video store. Pity we couldn't have had this legislation for people who ran video stores. There are just so many examples. And has there ever been a piece of legislation or a market of commerce anywhere, David, where government intervention made businesses more efficient or deliver better product to consumers?
No, and what this has a risk of doing is actually only propping up a few selected media businesses, those who will qualify, and actually stopping new entrants. And let's not pretend that media is not having challenging times, but we've had newsrooms set up, we've had the spin-off set up, we've got blogs, the platform, of course, reality check radio, etc. And I can't imagine, that this money is going to be going to many of those. It's going to go to, Star, New Zealand Herald, etc. The other thing where I think it's silly for the government to have done this is, obviously no one likes to have the media all yelling out saying, we're dying, it's your fault, you have to do something.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not exactly, I'm not crying.
But the danger I see is, let's say the government says, Facebook and Meta and Google have to pay $20 million a year. The media might be grateful for a second for that, but then Labor and Greens next election will come in saying, well, it should be $40 million a year. And all these journalists are going to be, well, I might lose my job unless we go Labor Green government. So I actually think you'll make the media more left-leaning. And the other thing is, I can well imagine, next government, at some stage, Labor Green Te Pāhi will demand that 50% of the levy go to Māori media.
They're not actually suggesting a levy, are they? They're saying we will aid New Zealand media companies in negotiation by intervening to have mediated settlements. or arbitrated settlements.
When you pass a law, you're not aiding. You're forcing.
Yeah.
There's nothing to stop it. It actually has happened in the past. Social media companies and media coming to agreement. I think that's happened with Google. But this is about a law that's going to require some sort of agreement. And it's probably going to backfire too, because Meta has worked out around 1% of their revenue comes from media. Well, actually, probably 20-25% of media revenue actually comes from people being able to find their stories on social media, etc. So in Canada, what we've seen is that Meta just then says, we're going to ban anyone from sharing news stories on social media. And that's actually bad, because then I can't find
what effect has that had in Canada? David, what effect has that had in Canada?
Well, here's the irony, is the media have actually lost even more revenue, and they've had to be bailed out by the government. So something intended to help the media has actually ended up damaging them, especially smaller media, because they're the ones that really depend on. They're not the ones that people check out every day. They're the ones that depend on people
pop up in people's feeds. Yeah. And I've got to say, look, this is something I am obviously personally and professionally very interested in. It's why we built an app that was separate from the big social media sites and our own website. It's why, to be honest, I haven't spent a huge amount of money on broad advertising and it's slow and sometimes it's scary, but you've got to build your own audience on your own platforms that are niche and super engaged. It's the only way new media is going to work.
Absolutely. You want people ultimately to come and seek you out because they want to hear what you're saying. It's great having stories pop up on social media, and you might get...
Man, look at how many hits I've got. It doesn't pay you a lot of money. It just tells you, you got the secret sauce right when a whole lot of people read something.
Yeah.
Do we have any indication if Meta are going to throw their toys out of the cot in New Zealand?
Well, they've done it in Canada and Australia, and I can't imagine it's going to be different here. Yeah. Because for them, it's the precedent. If they roll over, then Europe will do this, United States will do this, etc. Yeah. So it's quite a big issue for them. Google doesn't tend to be quite so confrontational, but Meta, certainly their record is that they play pretty hardball on this. But, even if they do roll over, it doesn't make it a good thing to do, where you're having the government forcing them to effectively pay. I almost call it protection money to the media.
Yeah.